Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our LGC board meeting for the month of November and December. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Yes. Our first item is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone can stand.
I pledge allegiance to the Thank you. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment today?
For agenda item 3, no one has signed up for public comments. Commissioner Butler.
Thank you. Okay, we will begin with our new tradition of honoring our employees of the month for TransDev. I'd like to welcome Jesus Gameros and Aurelia Valverde to the podium, please. As they walk up, I'll just let you know a little bit about these employees. Jesus has been with First Transit TransDev as a loyal employee for 10 years now. He's consistently demonstrated dedication and professionalism in his role. He arrives early for his shifts, has maintained a record with no customer complaints, and always prioritizes safety. His commitment and excellent customer service is evident in the way he reaches his time point safely and on schedule. Beyond his regular duties, Jesus is always willing to take on extra work, even on his days off, showing his reliability and team-first attitude. Thank you very much, Jesus, for your service to El Paso County, to TransDev. Ms. Aurelia Valverde has been with First Transit TransDev as a loyal employee for 2 years. Aurelia, like most employees of the month, is an outstanding driver and team player. She shows up for her shifts 15 minutes early, always has a smile on her face. She has exceptional customer service and is always going out of her way to help the passengers when needed. Thank you very much, Aurelia, for your service to the county. Thank you. I have some pens for you. Thank you. Can we give them a round of applause?
Good afternoon. I'm grateful to be part of this meeting, and I want to say thank you to ETA for giving us the trust and the belief. And also, I want to say thank you to our general manager that she's been giving us an excellent environment to work for. And also, we have an excellent manager of safety that he provides the right tools for us to be in number one on the street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
All right, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. And it is comprised of items 5A through 5E. Are there any items that anybody would like to pull from consent?
Anything from the board? I think we're okay. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second?
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Butler and a second from Andrea Carrillo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And now I believe that we will go ahead and move our executive session up. And so I'll read agenda item 7. This is executive session. The meeting may be closed under the following Texas Government Code of the Openings Act to discuss items that will be covered under section 551.071 as well as Sections 551.074. And that will be for the items that pertain to 7A through 7D. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, from Commissioner Butler,
Second?
second from Andrea Carrillo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we will go into executive session at 1:39.
Please stand by. Go ahead.
Okay, if we can I have a board member make a motion to move back into open session?
So move.
Okay, Mr. Kandi, second? Art Rubio, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, and the time is 2:50. We will now move on to our regular agenda item, which is 6A, and this is a presentation and acceptance of the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 annual audits, and a presentation will be made by Gibson, Reddick, and Patterson.
Oh, just, I'm sorry.
I'm
Do
sorry.
we need to do the executive session actions and then go to?
If you'd like to do the extension, okay, we'll do those first. I apologize. Okay, so then we'll move on to agenda item 8A, and that will be, is there any action on agenda item 8A?
No action.
No action, okay. And then we'll move on to agenda item 8B, and this is to consider action regarding Executive Director's 6-month evaluation. Commissioner Butler?
Yes, I will make a motion to accept Mr. Ando, the favorable 6-month evaluation of our executive director, Mr. Ando.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Butler and a second from, was it Mr. Kandi? From Joe, sorry. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion carries. All right. Then if it's all right, we'll go to move on, we'll move back to 6A. Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, and I believe Ms. Reddick will be presenting? Okay, and Mario Arenas, thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I'll just briefly, we have Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez from the Texas Department of Transportation on the line. He just would like to say a few words for the board and for those in the meeting. Do you mind if we can say a few words?
Absolutely. Welcome, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for allowing me the time to squeeze in a few minutes to just basically congratulate El Paso County, as you may have all heard. The recent award for the facilities project was funded for the full amount that we had requested. So I wanted to give a little bit of insight to some of that. When we began the envisioning process for this facility, it was late 2018 with Sal Alonso, myself, and Reina. And when you think of it in those terms, from late 2018 to now, and getting a facility project funded for the full amount requested, it is unusual and exceptional. And this is all due to the very hard work of the team there in El Paso County. Late April, there was a very, very narrow window to really get things kicked off and going and accelerating some of the planning and items that we needed to accomplish in order to be able to submit this project on time. And so by the same token, I would like to also extend the appreciation to the CRMA, Atkins Reales, and HDR for really stepping up on that very, very tight time frame. That would be Raymond Tellez, Edgar Fino, and Hugo Hernandez. The effort by them and the El Paso staff was extraordinary in order to make this happen. So congratulations to the staff there at El Paso County, Reina, Luz, and Bianca. Also, I'd like to mention the assistance that Javier was able to contribute there towards the end. And now we look forward to working with John moving forward on this project. It's, in my experience with facilities projects, to see something materialize from a vision to actual funding. I think this is about the quickest I've ever seen in any of our public transportation facilities projects. Typically takes about 10 years or so. The contribution by El Paso County for the property really made it also very attractive, and that contribution itself can in turn be used as in-kind match for future federal projects. So a lot of good things happening, a lot of good things that are going to be taking place, with a lot of fast-moving parts, especially with the transitioning from El Paso to ETA with the subrecipient status. John has done a great job in getting a lot of the documentation already. John and myself have kind of set a goal of end of April, to have most of those documents and items that we need so that we can have a minute order identifying ETA as the recipient of future funds, public transportation funds, for El Paso County. So that's really basically all I wanted to say is congratulations. Make for a heck of a Christmas present for the entire county.
It is an amazing Christmas present. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I know that we were a little bit nervous, and maybe the federal government shutdown delayed the announcement by a couple of months, but we were really excited that it did come through. It's going to be a $14.2 million grant from the federal government. Is that right?
Yeah, so total, there is some state match there with the grant. So total with the state and federal will be $16 million.
$16 million project.
Yeah, and the project itself, the facility, working with the consultant, the amount was about $15 million, I believe. So we have about $1 million in contingency. Also, this would be what we consider the first phase. So any future growth would be subsequent phases that we'll be kind of, working on in subsequent years. So, very good work, exceptional work. I'm not gonna, congratulations to everybody that worked on it.
Thank you for your support, Mr. Gonzalez, and congratulations to the whole county team who worked on this project. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and that's really it, unless you have any questions of me that I can answer. I'm going to have to sign off for another quick meeting.
No, sir, I think we're okay. Thank you very much for your comments.
Well, everybody, enjoy your holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the board, I'm pleased to present to this board your first two audits. And we have the audit team here to talk about those audits, and then upon their presentation, we seek your concurrence on accepting those audits.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Ruddick. This is Mario. And we do have the first 2 years, 2023 and 2024. And we'll go over them, highlight a few things. Of course, the organization is in its infancy stages, so there's not a lot, but I'm sure this is going to get a lot bigger later. But we do want to highlight some things for you. Before I get going, I do want to thank John and Annette and Judy at the COG for all their help. We ask a lot of questions. You know, there was not a previous audit to go by as far as like wording, and so we did ask a lot of questions, and we're very thankful for all their help, and especially the wording on how things needed to be said. So wanted to thank them on that. I'm going to point out a couple things that would be for both years. We did them concurrently, so there's a lot of stuff that is the same because it would be applicable to both years. So on your opinion letter, a lot of people sometimes, you know, they want to know, were there findings? Did we get a clean audit? And they call it a clean audit, but that's really not an official term. But yes, you have an opinion that says that your financials are fairly presented. So that would be at the second paragraph of the opinion letter on both years. I'm going to skip over. We're going to talk a little bit about the statement of net position, and then we'll talk about the statement of activities, and we'll kind of highlight both years, and Mario's going to jump in here.
Yes, and for these statements, well, I'll give you the financial highlights of what the finances were for both fiscal years 2023 and 2024. So your statement of financial position, or also known as your balance sheet, the main item that you have there as an asset is your due from fiscal agent, which, as you're aware, the COG is the fiscal agent, so they're holding in the monies for the ETA, so that's equivalent to your cash. So at both years, September 30, 2023 and 2024, you had $213,000 and $355,000 rounding at both fiscal year ends respectively. And then the other item on your balance sheet is your liabilities. That's your accounts payable, and those are just monies that, due to timing differences, they're accrued as of the year end, and then they'll be paid shortly thereafter. And for both years, you had $48,000 for 2023, and you had $80,000 for 2024. And after we looked at those both items on your balance sheet, the ending result is your fund balance or your net position, and those are the reserves of the entity that they're available for the entity to use as the need arises or for whatever projects are deemed necessary. And your net position for both years was $165,000 as of September 30, 2023, and as of September 30, 2024, it was $275,000. Moving on to the statement of activities, or in a nutshell, is basically your income statement. This statement shows how many monies come in, how much you used up, and then what is left over to roll on to your net position. And your revenues is made up of your member dues for the various entities that participate. For 2023, you had 4 members, and for 2024, you had 6 members with the addition of Horizon and Anthony. For 2023, the member dues were $213,000, and for 2024, it was 346,000. And again, the main reason was there were more members participating in 2024. Moving on to your expenditures. For 2023, you had 48,000, and for 2024, you had 235,000, so an increase of roughly 187,000. And again, that's just mostly due to the first year is a very early stage, and then as you move along, you'll see more rise of the activity and so forth. And your expenditures are mostly made up for legal, marketing, and the fiscal agent fees that are paid to the COG. And that's what I had in a nutshell, just to give you some of the financial highlights. I was going to give it back to Shelley so she could finish off with certain things, but if anybody had questions on the numbers or wanted more detail, I could answer those if there's any.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Banyan.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
I might have missed it, but perhaps in the notes or someplace else, is there reference to the dollars that are involved or spent during the year, the audited years that are from grants that have been received through the Texas Department of Transportation?
We don't,
The grants are in the name of the county, so those aren't in here.
Okay,
It's just the LCG by itself.
but perhaps in the notes, there could be reference to the fact that there's like 14, 15, $20 million, something like that, that, yes, it's in the name of the board, of the county, excuse me, but ETA has a role in how they're spent. It's just something that I think making reference to those funds being there and ETA having, being involved in that whole process.
There is some, in the first note, it doesn't give the number specific, but it does talk about how the structure is with the board, and it also has, discusses the interlocal agreement with El Paso County and the responsibilities there. We could add that for 2025 if you would like to have that.
Well, I think it's the pleasure of the board. I don't know.
I know that after this fiscal year, once we are the direct recipient for those funds, that will definitely be reflected in the budget and the audits. For now, Mr. Banelas, I think it's appropriate for this just to be that funding that is everything outside of the county.
Okay, I was just going to actually mention note one that you great lead in there, that kind of describes the establishment of the entity, how the board is determined, and the relationship with El Paso County. So that's all in note one. And so that kind of gives you the background. Well, you all know the background, but a user the background. The other notes, when you start going through the other pages, they have to do with just accounting policies, and starting with note two, it gives a little bit more detail of like the specific line items that Mario mentioned, but they're all pretty much standard notes that you would have in any governmental type entity. And that kind of brings us to the end. They're pretty just standard notes that you have there. There was also a separate letter that was presented as, or given to you as part of the audit, and that's just a required letter that we are required to give the board members. It goes over like the estimates that are used. We say there's no difficulty, we didn't have any difficulties doing the audit, we didn't have disagreements. It's a pretty standard letter, and so that was included there, but nothing really to talk about on that. That was all we were going to go over, unless there was, something you wanted to discuss more. 2025 is in process, and I know that the COG is working on closing out their books, and then they'll be able to give us the trial balance, and we'll continue working on that. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yes, we will. Thank you very much. Other questions or comments? Okay. I will make a motion to approve.
I think it reads to accept the fiscal year 23 and 24 audits.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Butler.
Second.
A second from Andrea Carrillo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate- Thank you.
Agenda item 6B, this is a presentation from the Far West Texas El Paso Regional Transportation Coordination Committee regarding the regional plan. It will be presented by Javier Bañuelos, who serves as the chair of WETEP, who is also serving as our ex officio board member.
Good afternoon, members of the board. The goal is to inform the ETA board about the West Texas El Paso Regional Planning Committee's work to complete a regional plan for a 5-year period. This board should have a working knowledge about the history and the ongoing work of the various organizations whose goal is to improve and provide transit services within our area. The work that they do, the West Texas El Paso Regional Planning Committee, can have an impact on the cities and towns that make up the ETA membership. The presentation by Amistad, a nonprofit agency soon to celebrate its 50th anniversary as a nonprofit organization, is headed by the staff because Amistad is the physical agent for the Regional Planning Committee, and they coordinate all its activities. The major project underway is a development of the 2027 to 2031 regional plan that includes El Paso County, Hudspeth, Culberson, Presidio, Jeff Davis, and Webster counties. Celia Garcia is the Chief Operating Officer of Social Services for Amistad and is a staff support person to the Regional Planning Committee. She will be heading the presentation. Andrea Ramirez, the CEO, is here also to join her. But joining in the presentation is Kathy Chambers with Moore Associates. She's in Dallas, so she's joining us virtually. Moore Associates has been contracted to coordinate all the activities leading to the completion of the 2027 to 2031 regional plan. Celia?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to go through this presentation really fast. Some of you have already seen it before because Kathy has some great information to share with you all on the progress of that new regional plan. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Just as an introduction, how did regional planning get started? Of course, in 1990, with the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act by President George Bush. Of course, the ADA mandated that reasonable accommodations be provided to elderly persons and persons with disabilities, and of course, vulnerable populations in general. The ADA, of course, advocates for the populations noted, or this change happened because there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect between transportation services and social services. As you all know, of course, there's many agencies that serve these populations, but many times we're all in our own little world, right? So there was a need to communicate and collaborate with social service agencies to serve the population better. Next slide, please. So just a quick timeline. Of course, Texas legislature required the coordination of public transportation services funded by federal, state, and local funds. 2004, federal government called for a reduction of duplication by federally funded transportation services and expanding access to transportation services to vulnerable populations. Of course, a transportation bill was passed, and it called for establishing the locally developed coordinated public transit human services transportation plans, which is the one that we're recently updating. And in 2006, TxDOT actually contracted with local agencies to develop a regional coordination plan for each of 24 state planning regions. Next slide. Of course, very quickly, in 2006, El Paso County, the Area Agency on Aging, and Amistad actually came together, and they established what is now WETEP. And I will update you all on the name. We did change the name more recently in the last year and a half. It's actually West Texas and Southern New Mexico Transportation Coordination Committee. And I'll share a little bit about that here quickly. In 2017, Amistad took over being the fiscal agent and, of course, was funded by TxDOT to do so. And right now, we're currently in the 2022 to 2026 regional plan. Next slide, please. Of course, we serve Region 8, which Mr. Bañuelos referred to. Next slide, please. And what is the purpose of the statewide coordination of public transportation? So in a very, very wide umbrella, the purpose is, of course, to eliminate waste in the provision of transportation services, generate efficiencies that will permit increased levels of service, and further the state's efforts to reduce air pollution. And of course, the Texas Department of Transportation, through their Public Transportation Division, is responsible for monitoring us, guiding, and of course, providing the funding. Next slide, please. Quickly, why regional planning? Well, of course, having a more effective system, communication amongst agencies, of course, social services, transportation services, identifying all resources, having the communities come together to develop that plan, being vested in the plan, identifying all the inventory of transportation, and of course, completing comprehensive needs assessments and gap analysis in the regions. Next slide, please. So why did we include the New Mexico name? Because New Mexico member agencies are very important in this committee. Why? Because we have a lot of members from our community that are right on that cusp of New Mexico and coming into El Paso to get services. And of course, utilize transportation services that are provided by the South Central Regional Transit District, which serves also the New Mexico area. Of course, more information for you guys there that you can read. Next slide, please. Our mission statement is to promote collaboration between transportation providers and health and human service organizations so that persons served experience an improved quality of life. As you all know, of course, it's easy to get lost in such a huge system, and a lot of our vulnerable populations need that guidance, need us as collaborative partners to really get together and make that process as easy as possible. Next slide, please. The implementation plan currently has 5 goals. Very quickly, goal 1, to implement, of course, the Regional Health and Human Services Public Transportation Coordination Plan through collaboration of the member agencies, promote collaboration resulting in continued and improved services to the person served. Next slide. Goal 3, of course, filling gaps in services through identification and assessment of changing mobility needs, which of course happens throughout the years. Goal 4, maintaining board public knowledge of transit and social services throughout that 6-county region. And the last goal, to promote efforts to maximize technical assistance and training to member agencies. Sometimes that sharing of information helps us be able to take advantage of, trainings that other agencies provide. All of that collaboration really serves to help the populations better. Next slide, please. Some of the contents of the regional plan, some of you all, of course, have seen these. Some empirical data from various sources, surveys from clients, from service providers, input from policymakers such as yourselves, gap analysis, performance measures, planning sessions with multiple member agencies, and of course, vehicle inventories. That's in our current plan and will be updated for the new plan. Next slide, please. And just a little bit of information, some of you may have attended the 2024 Paratransit Conference that was hosted there at Amistad last year. Of course, we had multiple panel discussions. There was a welcoming address by, of course, our very own Mr. Bañales, participation from TxDOT, and, our keynote speaker was Vince Huerta, the Director of Transportation for the East Texas Council of Governments. If you go to the next slide, we have a few pictures for you guys to look at. Of course, that collaboration is key for us to really serve those populations. Here you guys can see our New Mexico partners, Centro San Vicente, Amistad, Area Agency on Aging, Volar. Next slide, another picture. And of course, some of your very own from El Paso Transportation Authority and our South Central Regional Transit District, of course, Sun Metro, City of Socorro. These are key collaborating partners in the WETEP committee. Next slide, please. Just a short list of some of the members in the committee. Of course, you guys can see there our El Paso Transportation Authority is a part of that, including a lot of other member agencies. Next slide, please. And this is our 2025 Officers and Steering Committee. We are, of course, nearing the end of the year and will be nominating new members for the 2026 year. But of course, you all can see Mr. Bañales is our chair. We have a vacancy of vice chair. We have our secretary, of course, Ms. Claudia Garcia from Sun Metro, and our steering committee, which includes, of course, New Mexico partners such as the New Mexico Family Services, our South Central New Mexico Regional Transit, Ms. Yvette Lugo from the Area Agency on Aging, and the City of Socorro. And that is all on my end. I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Ms. Kathy Chambers. The last slide, if you want to pass it on to the last slide, it just shows you all how to get to our website if you do want to see more information on our WETIP committee. Ms. Kathy, go ahead and take it away.
All right. I should have a presentation also, or would you like me to do my own?
I can run it for you. Let me just pull that up.
Okay, perfect. There we go. Perfect. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Kathy Chambers. I'm the project manager with Moore and Associates. We were engaged to do the update of the Regional Human Services Public Transportation Coordination Plan. Next slide, please. So Celia went over a lot of the project purposes. She went into a little bit more detail in here. I just want to reinforce that, what we're working on is an update of the current plan. So the current plan is still in force, essentially, through 2026. The one we're working on will go into effect beginning in 2027. And like she said, our main goal is to identify transportation needs, service gaps, and available resources. And then from those things to help strengthen coordination between public transportation providers, human service agencies, and local governments to address the gaps and the needs that we identify. Next slide. So just as a reminder of who the focus of this plan is, we're talking about people who are traditionally transportation dependent, primarily seniors, persons with disabilities, low-income residents, zero-car households, youth, persons with limited English proficiency, veterans, and those who are looking for employment. Next slide. So I'll start off by saying in February of this year, TxDOT released new guidance on how this plan should be constructed. So the ultimate plan that's going to come out of this effort is going to look a little bit different than what was developed for 2022 through 2026. So this plan has three primary sections. The first addresses public engagement. And so this includes engagement with stakeholders, transportation providers, and individual members of the target populations. So we have been doing that through a series of surveys and in-person pop-up events, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. The second component of the plan is an existing conditions report. This includes a geographic assessment. It includes a demographic overview of each county. We look at the transportation providers and what services they provide in which locations. And from that, we develop an assessment of needs and service gaps. Then finally, the third section is the plan goals, strategy, and project prioritization. This is where we develop goals specific to this plan that are specific to the needs and gaps that are identified in the first two sections. Then the WETAP has the opportunity to both develop a prioritization methodology and then apply that methodology to strategies and projects that are identified in this last section. Next slide. So a little update on our public engagement. I will say that this PowerPoint was developed in mid-November, so I have some updated numbers for this. So the stakeholders, we have now collected 30 stakeholder surveys as of this morning. These were distributed back in October, toward the end of the month. And they included a very broad range of organizations, from local governments to social service agencies, things of that nature. So healthcare providers, whatever we could find to help try to get an idea of what kind of transportation challenges were being faced by populations as opposed to individuals. The second survey we did was a transportation provider survey, which also went out in October. We've collected 3 surveys, and we're actively following up with several other transportation providers. So I expect that number to grow a little bit more. As far as community engagement, this was primarily through a community survey that was distributed through stakeholders, as well as through in-person pop-up events. So we were in the field in the 6-county region the week of November 10th. We had a total of 13 events that we did across the 6 counties. We collected 192 surveys, and we engaged nearly 500 people throughout this effort. Within El Paso County, we did events in Socorro and Vinton, as well as we did some surveying at the Mission Valley and West Side Transit Centers. And we also worked with the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. We were able to go out to one of our large food distributions and survey folks as they were waiting to pick up their food. So it was really a great opportunity to get out and get feedback from a large group of individuals, as well as talk to some of the stakeholders at that time. Next slide. So just to give you an idea of the schedule we're on, we have 3 technical memos that are part of this. The first one is a summary of the stakeholder and community engagement. That one's going to be ready in mid-December. That'll be followed by a summary of existing conditions, which also includes transportation provider resources, et cetera. That will be in mid-January. In February, we're going to meet with the WETEP and do a workshop that will help develop the prioritization methodology for the projects and strategies that will come later in the project. In February, we submit an interim plan, which consists of basically those first 2 sections to TxDOT. Once we get that back, we start working on the preliminary goals and strategies. That will be detailed in a technical memo in late May. We'll have another workshop with the WETEP to help prioritize those using the methodology they've developed. This will be followed by putting the plan together. It will go out for a 1-month public review period, so you'll all have a chance to take a look at it at that time. And then we expect the final plan to be completed in September 2026. Next slide. So we do have a project webpage. So if you are interested in this project, I encourage you to go visit that project webpage at www.keepwtxmoving.com and find out what's going on with it. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Just finally, a final comment. We'd like to extend an invitation to the member entities to also appoint a person from their staff to participate with the Regional Planning Committee. We've had participation in the past for example, right now, the City of Socorro is one of the members of the Regional Planning Committee. In the past, we've had Vinton as a member as well. And periodically over the last 20-some-odd years, we've had representatives from the different municipalities and communities within El Paso County. And so sometimes they're very active, and then we don't see them for a while. But so the invitation is there for the communities on Elisario, Socorro, like I said, Horizon, Vinton, and Anthony. So we look forward to hearing from you and getting participation from your communities.
Thank you.
We appreciate the input. Ms. Ramirez, do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you for being here. Appreciate you both. Thank you so much for the update. Thank you, Ms. Chambers.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to agenda item 6C. This is a presentation regarding Task 10, General Public Demand Response Transit Study. And this will be presented by Kelly Bloom, who is the Associate Research Scientist with Texas A&M Transportation Institute. Kelly, would you like me to show the presentation, or would you like to run it?
Whatever your preference is.
Okay. Let's see. Here we go. I'll go ahead and run it. Just let me know when you want me, if you'd like me to forward the slides.
All right, thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you a progress update on where we are on the General Public Demand Response Transit Study, and also to give you an update on the Transit Development Plan as well, since they are very closely linked. Next slide, please. As I said, I'll give you a progress update, and at the end, we can have time for discussion and questions, but we can also pause between the two progress updates as well. So next slide, please. And the next slide. So as a recap, the purpose of the GPDRT study was to plan general public demand response transportation services in the outer county, which is specifically the areas that are outside of those served currently by ETA and by Sun Metro. Next slide, please. And this is where we are right now in the study. We've conducted an existing conditions evaluation. We've conducted 2 rounds of stakeholder engagement. We've developed preliminary scenarios and analyzed them. We've come up with a preferred scenario, which we also had presented to you at a previous board meeting. So right now we're in the process of developing a service plan for general public demand response transportation, and it's going to be a chapter in the final report, which is also at work that's currently in progress. Next slide, please. So the approach that we're taking with the service plan is founded in the transit service planning guidelines that were established several years ago, several projects ago. And some of the key factors there are that transit services to be available to all outer county residents, that it's to provide connections to key destinations in the county, such as El Paso Community College and to Sun Metro transfer centers, services to be provided on weekdays and weekends, 14 hours at least on weekdays, at least 12 hours a day on weekends. The services that we're developing are not going to compete with other transportation providers, like Sun Metro in particular for riders. But in addition to that, over the course of interacting with the public as part of the GPDRT study and understanding their needs, we've added 3 other things that are sort of guiding our approach here. One is that the system needs to be easy to use. It needs to be accessible to individuals in the outer county who have limited access to internet and may not be able to take advantage of electronic payment methods. And we also have to provide a mix of service that balances meeting needs with providing services that are cost effective. The service plan recognizes that some of these services or components of the GPDRT service might be implemented as pilot projects. And it's also considering ETA access, the service, and ETA Paseo, the fixed route service. Next slide, please. So overall, the service plan is organized. I have an introduction, then we have a discussion of service plan components for each of the service plan for each individual component of the GPDRT service. So that's dial-a-ride, microtransit, the user-side subsidy program, and the volunteer driver program, which we've talked about in previous meetings, but I'm happy to give a recap of what those are if needed. Another component of the service plan is to talk about how the GPDRT components are being integrated. It's talking about the schedule, and there's also a public participation element to the plan as well. Next slide, please. So the content that we're providing for each of the 4 service components includes a component description. It talks about the service area and the service zones that apply, if applicable, to each component. We talk about service days and hours, we talk about who's eligible for the given service, who it's intended to serve, the types of trip purposes that it's intended to serve, the process of making trip reservations, the scheduling and dispatching process, the fare structure, fare payment methods, technological investments that are needed to make the service component work, ridership forecasts, estimated revenue hours and miles. We talk about the fleet that's used to deliver the service, the operator that operates the service, ADA and accessibility issues, and we also talk about performance measures to be used for evaluating the service and monitoring it over time. Next slide, please. So just some highlights of each service component right now as they're presented in the plan, which again, the service plan is a work in progress. I'll talk a little bit more about the schedule in a bit. So things are, likely to change as we try to piece all of the components together. But generally the idea with the dial-a-ride is that it's commingled with the ADA service, with ETA access. The idea behind commingling is that general public riders and ADA eligible riders would be sharing trips. Now, priority would be given to the ADA eligible riders because of ADA requirements, but the general public riders would be served with the excess capacity on ETA access or any additional capacity that would be provided through investments in additional vehicles or additional drivers. But basically, we're talking about one service that's operating under the ETA access brand. It's a service that relies on advanced reservations. On the general public side, it's for all riders and trip purposes who are considered to be part of the general public. It's zone-based, like the ETA access service currently is, and there's an option for a premium service that connects you between service zones and can provide service into the Sun Metro service area with certain limitations, which we're developing as part of this. Next slide, please. Second component is microtransit, and the idea is that this microtransit would operate under the ETA On Delay brand. Microtransit is an on-demand service, and as we're currently developing it in the service plan, its service features are modeled after the pilot service that's currently serving San Elizario and Clint. So the key features there are that it provides local circulation plus access to key connections or key destinations like Mission Valley Transfer Center. The response time is 15 to 30 minutes. So if you call and request a trip, a vehicle should be able to pick you up within 15 to 30 minutes, and it provides service on a curb-to-curb basis. Right now, this pilot is only operating in one area, one zone, basically. But the idea in the service plan is that microtransit, if extended to other locations within the county or within the service area, would be zone-based as well. So really focusing on that idea of providing local circulation and key connections. Service hours and days would be comparable to those provided by ETA Access, and it would be available to all outer county riders. All trip purposes would be eligible, and you could book trips by app or by phone. Next slide, please. The user-side subsidy program is perhaps the trickiest component because there's so many options how it manifests, but fundamentally it's a partnership between ETA and other transportation providers. Amistad, Uber, Lyft, taxis, anybody else that's operating in the service area. The user choice angle on this is that if you are, this is what you see if you are a user of the service, is that it's a potential service option for you when ETA services are not available or they're at capacity. So if you want to travel outside of the ETA Paseo service hours, this might be an option that allows you to do that. It depends on the availability of the partner providers, of course, which is a big thing with this particular component of GPD service. But it also could operate as an alternative service for ADA eligible riders. The idea being with an alternative service in the industry, meaning it's an on-demand, same-day option for ADA eligible riders. So not just ADA or not just advanced reservation. Now, from ETA's perspective, this is not it's parallel but not quite the same. But this idea that if an individual calls and requests a trip on ETA Access and the county schedulers and dispatchers determine that it would be very expensive to provide the trip because there are no opportunities to share the ride or the trip is a very, very long trip, they would have the option to reach out to these providers as well and try to accommodate that trip on one of those other modes. So that's kind of built into this process, but it's not what the user sees. So the idea behind what we're presenting in the service plan is more about, kind of what the user sees. And the overall idea, again, the trips are subsidized with the user subsidy program. So if you make a trip that's considered to be an eligible trip, like it has to be within the service area, for example, that you could pay a base fare and that a certain amount beyond that base fare would be covered by ETA or other sponsors. And then once that subsidy amount is exhausted, the user would then be responsible for paying anything above that. So as part of the service plan, we're figuring out details of how that kind of structure could work based on how programs like this operate in other communities. Next slide, please. And the fourth component is the volunteer driver program. As we've talked about at previous meetings, the model we're talking about is one in which riders recruit their own driver. Riders would then request mileage reimbursement from ETA or any other sponsors and then pay their driver. This isn't a service that would operate in any kind of zones. It would be allowed for all riders and trip purposes. There's the option to require trip pre-approval, however, to make sure that any conditions that are applied to this ability to get mileage reimbursement are being met. Like, for example, if you're making a trip that goes outside of the ETA service area, that may be a trip that needs to be pre-approved. And maybe it's only eligible for certain destinations, like say a very, very specialized medical care or medical treatment facility type of trip. Not like going to say San Antonio or something like that. But ETA is not likely to be administrator of this program, but rather a sponsor and possibly a provider of wheelchair accessible vehicles where they're needed. Next slide, please. So the next section of the service plan is talking about how all of these things fit together, those four components that I just talked about. How do the service areas and zones fit together? Are we making sure that we aren't leaving any service coverage gaps or eligibility gaps in terms of who has access to service and when? What happens over the near and the long term in terms of how we integrate the services as they're brought online and with respect to any technology and software that we invest in. We also, talk about integrating the GPDRT with services like ETA, Paso, and other transportation services in the area. And we talk about how do riders choose the service that meets their needs? Because right now we've got 4 different GPDRT service components. We also have, fixed route service. We have ETA access for paratransit. So how does a rider find a service that best meets what they need to do? Like, how do we make sure that this service is easy to use and easy to understand? And so that brings up the potential need for hiring a mobility manager who can basically provide kind of that customer interface, but also provide coordination between the different components as well. So we're talking about that in the service plan too, like what that role might look like and what their responsibilities might be. Next slide, please. So coming up on this, we have we're completing the draft final report and service plan this month, and that'll be going to ETA staff for review. We'll make revisions and then we'll bring it back to the board in January. And once we have your feedback, we plan to finalize the report and service plan at the end of January. So I'll pause here if there are any questions about the GPDRT study before I move on to the TDP update.
Any questions from the board? I do have one question, Kelly, and thank you so much for the presentation. I know it's very dense, but it's super exciting to think about us offering data ride services to county residents. I think, if I recall correctly, last time we discussed these options, there was like a chart with different maybe budget impacts or cost estimates. That will be included in the final report that we see next month, I'm assuming?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
It will,
Yeah,
definitely.
because I know that, our budget is going to really dictate what we're able to do over time. So I'll be interested in seeing those numbers again.
Absolutely, yeah. We're updating our ridership forecasts and our cost estimates as things are refined. And the idea, again, is we are trying to come up with solutions that are cost effective, that meet the needs, but also are mindful of the budget that's available and making sure that we're using the budgets and, our resources like, available drivers as effectively as we can.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Any other? Yes.
Yes, this might be a question for Mr. Ando, but for the microtransit, the dial ride, for this task order, is this gonna be in addition to fixed route service, or is a potential replacement for certain routes, or is that addressed in the task order?
This will basically primarily operate in the outer county areas, so out like the extreme rural areas. However, it does not preclude from replacement of underperforming fixed routes as we bring back service levels for the board's consideration in the 27 financial plan.
So this task order would give you the ability to make that determination?
Yes.
Okay.
Will we be including performance metrics in the service plan to help provide some insights into whether the services are operating as well as they need to be?
Oh, great. Yeah. I personally would love to see, like you mentioned, Mr. Ando, like the extreme rural areas like Waco Tanks that aren't serviced right now by fixed route. I think this would be a great option for those kinds of areas.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I just want to ask, next month we'll be presenting the transit development plan before this board. That will be submitted to Sun Metro. So we'll give the board an update, and just in the interest of time, on that process when we go through that presentation.
So you want to move on to the next agenda item?
Yes, unless
Okay.
there's any other questions.
So you don't want me to talk about the TDP right now? Sorry,
No, we'll talk about that next month.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Sorry, discussion and possible action to approve amendment number 1 to TransDev services for all transit services operating within El Paso County, and recommend approval to Commissioners Court pending legal review, and to authorize the executive director to execute the amendment once finalized. Mr. Rendo?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. This item is to amend the TransDev agreement that was recently approved by the board last month. Due to the timing of the implementation of that agreement and the timing of entering into a lease agreement with the City of El Paso Mass Transit Department, this amendment will cover payment to TransDev so they can continue to pay the City of El Paso for use of the Union Depot maintenance facility until at least February of '26. We will be bringing forward, hopefully next month, a lease agreement to this board to review for basically allowing TransDev to use that Union Depot maintenance facility. The continuation of TransDev paratransit software, Trapeze Pass, pending execution of a new paratransit software agreement, which we're going through the process of finalizing negotiations with that vendor. And then we'll be going through El Paso County purchasing as well as this board and Commissioners Court for that agreement. And then TransDev just requested that the fidelity bond requirement be satisfied through an insurance policy that includes employee dishonesty coverage. Lastly, our new legal counsel has requested some language that just makes mention that the county remains responsible for this agreement until formally assigned to ETA, which is anticipated for late summer of '26. And then just clarifying definitions to clauses and certifications. Happy to answer any questions about this action if there are any.
I don't have any questions. Does the board? Okay. Thank you once again to Sun Metro for working with us on the lease agreement.
This is an action item.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment.
Second.
Eddie? Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Butler, a second from Eddie Condi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, move on to item 6C. This is the discussion of possible action to approve the sole source agreement with EAN Holdings LLC pending legal review, and to authorize the executive director to execute the agreement once finalized. Mr. Ando?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Presently, El Paso County contracts with Enterprise to provide the van pool program called Vámonos. That agreement is coming to expiration on 12/31 of '25. We've been working with El Paso County Purchasing in relation to a sole source agreement with EAN Holdings, which is basically Enterprise, to continue this program for a one-year term. We've tested the market, and there's no other van pool providers that can do a van pool program that Enterprise is providing for us. So in light of that, the county's purchasing has approved a one-year sole source agreement with the EAN Holdings, and we are asking for this board to forward a recommendation to the Commissioners Court to approve this item. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions? It's a great program. I will make a motion to approve the sole source agreement. Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Butler and a second from Ms. Cadillo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll move on to agenda item 6F. This is the adoption of a capitalization policy. Mr. Endo.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. I'm asking this board to adopt a capitalization policy which basically sets the threshold at $5,000 that we would treat as capital assets. As we start working through transition of assets from El Paso County to ETA for future auditing purposes, we are going to be in need of a capitalization policy. This policy is consistent with what is in the federal super circular, which is 2 CFR 200, as well as consistent with government accounting standards. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions from the board? Okay. A motion to approve?
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Butler and a second from
It was,
Mr.
it was Ms.
For Ms.
Carrillo.
I'm sorry? Ms. Carrillo, okay. I have a motion for Ms. Carrillo and a second from Art Rubio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. 6G, this is a discussion and possible action regarding executive committee implementation. Mr. Ando?
Can I make a motion to delete that item?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to delete this agenda item from Commissioner Butler and second from Mr. Condi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 6H, discussion regarding allocation of Federal Transit Administration Sections 5307 and 5339 funding. And this will be presented by Carl Rumkus with Sun Metro Special Projects Manager.
Good afternoon. Just wanted to provide a copy of a memo that was issued from Sun Metro to the MPO related to the suballocation of the formula funds that ETA will be applying for in the coming fiscal year. Per the policy, so in 2021, Sun Metro, the City of El Paso Mass Transit Department Board approved the policy that allows other transit agencies to be able to request this funding. And so in there, it specifies that suballocation, so a certain amount is allocated to the whole urbanized area. Sun Metro and South Central Regional Transit District both get allocations, suballocations. And now the City of Socorro and ETA are both requesting to become a direct recipient. So they're going to be getting a piece of that pie. The policy, the reference policy says that that's going to be allocated based on the population percent of that municipality or entity within the urbanized area. So the population percentages will be determined from census data, and the MPO will be putting together a table that references the percentage for El Paso County, not to include City of Socorro. And based on that, we'll be able to issue split letters to the City of Socorro and ETA for the suballocation that they will be receiving for FFY 26. Now, that comes with a caveat that we plan to have a service expansion agreement executed between the City of El Paso and ETA in the early spring. And that will come before this board at some point. As John mentioned earlier, the transit development plan is part of the process to be able to access to be able to execute that agreement. So all these are kind of working together towards that end. And the second part of the memo addresses a revision to this service expansion policy. John brought to our attention that the circular that regulates Section 5339, which is used to purchase vehicles and maintain facilities, is now open to suballocation. So we're going to be revising the policy to include that. We're also going to make sure that it's clear in there that direct recipients will not be eligible to receive funding from previous years, fiscal years, before the agreement was executed. So that agreement is what starts the eligibility to receive these formula funds. So we want to clarify that. Additionally, we want to make sure that any of the direct recipients that are seeking 5307 funding will report the majority of their transit data as urban, not as rural. As you know, the county service area includes both rural and urban areas, and depending what methodology you use, you could play it either way. But with ETA requesting this funding, we will expect to see the majority of that, at least 51% of that needs to be in the urban zone. And this benefits everybody because the more data that's included in the urban calculation, the larger the total allocation for El Paso UZA from FTA every year. So the more data in urban is better for everybody. And that's all I've got on the memo.
Thank you, Mr. Rimkus. Mr. Ando, any additions to that?
No, Mr. Rimkus did a great presentation. I did just give in the staff report just an illustrative chart on what would ETA expect based on Sun Metro's definition of population density, population from census blocks. So once the federal fiscal year 26 numbers come about, we'll have a more definitive idea on what that amount may be. In the case of the city of Socorro, should the city of Socorro wish to contract with ETA for services, it would be envisioned that the city of Socorro would draw down their share of the federal funds and provide that to ETA to operate services under an agreement with them, similar to what the city of Round Rock does with Cap Metro in Austin, Texas. So more to come on that as we go down the line on this effort.
Thank you for the update.
Okay, no action on this item. We'll move on to agenda item 6I. This is discussion and possible action to recommend to the El Paso County Commissioners Court to cancel the purchase order with GenFair in the amount of $154,870 and redirect use of the funds towards a pilot zero fare program starting on January 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2026, and reevaluation, continuation of the program during the fiscal year 2027 budget process. Mr. Ando?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. I present this item to you as a consideration of asking the board if the board would be interested in doing a zero fare pilot for the ETA's transit services. As we have done an analysis on the cost to basically collect fares and the amount of fares that we are collecting from the transit system, which is approximately 163,000 this past fiscal year, and on average is about 145,000 a year. We believe that we can utilize other funding sources, including federal funds. This amount that we were going to spend with GenFair for 154,000 to cover the cost of fares, thus making ETA services free. There are great benefits to going to zero fare. That could include, one, making transit equitable in the unincorporated and the other jurisdictions outside of El Paso. Two, making it easier to now get to the Sun Metro system instead of us having an interlocal agreement to transfer fares, for instance, like us having a $48 monthly pass and Sun Metro having a $48 monthly pass, if our system is free, that user who needs to ride services in the Sun Metro service territory will just need to buy a $48 monthly pass, and that would make it much easier for that user. There are great benefits to getting more passenger miles, and which could then translate into more federal funds to the urbanized area, which would benefit not only ETA, but Sun Metro and the city of Socorro. There's also a capital investment if we continue to collect fares. We've made a significant investment in farebox technology with GenFare to the tune of over $600,000 by buying 27 fare boxes, 10 GenFare link validators. If we want to use those systems that we've purchased to its fullest extent possible, we would need to pay GenFare another $30,000 for the software, plus another $30,000 to $45,000 more dollars for smart cards and the technology necessary to activate those features on the system. And when we look at the analysis of that, just continuing to invest in the GenFare system just doesn't provide merit. There are many systems of our size that have implemented zero fare systems in light of doing this analysis and determining the cost to collect fares is more than it's worth. Some sample systems that are in the United States that have done this. I've actually led 2 of those systems in the course of my career. Hawaii County, for instance, is a rural system that has gone zero fare, and their county commissioners just approved extending that from December 31 of 25 to December 31 of 28 because they're recognizing the value. City of Corvallis in Oregon, Intercity Transit in Olympia, Washington, Iowa City Transit in Iowa City, Iowa, Petaluma Transit in Petaluma, California, are also similar sized systems that have gone zero fare, where they don't generate a whole lot of fare revenue, and they've opted to use grants and other funding sources to cover zero fare. So if the board is interested in piloting this for a 1-year period, I would request board approval to authorize us to recommend to El Paso Commissioners Court to cancel the purchase order that has been issued to GenFare in the amount of $154,000, and then to redirect those funds to basically cover the cost of passenger fares through September 30 of 2026. And we will come back before this board as part of the fiscal year 27 financial plan to determine if we can continue a zero fare program for the upcoming fiscal year. I'm happy to answer any questions about this report if there are any.
I just want to thank Mr. Ando and my staff, Cito Negron, who worked on this. I think it makes sense to not be giving money to a vendor and giving free and equitable ridership to the folks that need it. So I'll make the motion, and thank you, Commissioner Butler, as well.
Before you do that,
My apologize. It's 145,
We need to
087,
amend
not
it.
154
Okay, 145.
is what we're asking for. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, Mr.
Second.
Rimkus. Okay, we have, and Mr. Rimkus has a comment?
Okay, we have.
Okay, I had a quick question for John. Will the fare boxes go dormant then? Leave them installed?
For now, we'll leave them installed until we can get further direction about if we want to continue to collect fares in future fiscal years or not. If we opt to stop fare collection altogether, then I would ask the board authorization to surplus the fare boxes and use that revenue to go back into transit operations.
And you collect ridership data through manual means or other automated systems?
Right now, we are using the GenFare and manual means. We are working with TransDev to install automated passenger counters on the vehicles. So going forward, the automated passenger counters will now be able to track passenger boardings by bus stop, which is something that this board has been asking for data based on jurisdictional ridership. So we'll now be able to give better ridership information utilizing those automated passenger counters.
Good to hear.
Very exciting. development, and I appreciate you doing the cost-benefit analysis for us. And I think a pilot project is the right way to go, and hopefully it'll show that it's worthwhile for our ridership and will increase those numbers for both ETA and Sun Metro, I think, so.
And I'll be candid with the board that had our fare revenue numbers been in the like 300,000 range, I wouldn't have come before this board on this, just because finding 300,000 with just the limited match odds we're getting from the members plus the grants would have been difficult. But 150,000, that can be easily covered through grants. And especially since we have this funding source from El Paso County that we can basically redirect for this pilot.
Go ahead. Will this item also come to the Commissioners Court on the 15th of December?
That is the plan, yes.
Okay. Would it be possible to start prior to January 1st?
I'll have to talk with, unless, Rena, if you're online, if maybe you can answer that question, based on the process we would need to do to redirect the funds, based on our conversation with the budget office.
I know last time she was having problems trying to
No,
speak, so I don't know if that's still an issue.
okay.
Well,
I
maybe
can
we
get back to the board.
It would be nice if we could do it for the holidays, perhaps before Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Also, I don't know if we need to work with county comms to kind of put.
We like to, yes, we'll
Have a
definitely,
public information campaign, making sure that people understand that.
like definitely a press release and basically thanking El Paso County for providing this allocation of funds to make transit free for all of rural El Paso County.
Okay, we can work with the comms team. If we're going to be approving it at the Commissioners Court on the 15th, maybe we can have something ready for that meeting if we have the approval, and that way we can, because we usually get press on Mondays at Commissioners Court meetings, and so it'd be a good idea to have them aware and be able to do something on Monday.
For sure.
Right, and we could share with each municipality as well, so you can inform your constituents. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Stout, a second from Mr. Condi. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will move on to agenda item 6J. This is discussion, direction, and recommendation to El Paso County Commissioners Court regarding the electric bus pilot project with Texas Department of Transportation. Mr. Ando?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. As you recall, we discussed the electric bus pilot last month and talked about the challenges and made some recommendations for this board to consider. And the board did ask us to bring this item back for further action. We have since talked with El Paso County Purchasing Department, ABC Companies, and TxDOT. Starting with TxDOT, TxDOT is in favor of canceling the purchase order with ABC Companies, just in light of the fact that the buses have not passed Altoona testing, and we do not have a definitive timeline on when they'll pass Altoona testing. So we've relayed that information to the El Paso County Purchasing Department, which is supportive of the cancellation of the purchase order. We have reached out to ABC Companies. They've confirmed in writing that they'll allow us to cancel with no implications to the county on that effort. We are in the process of working with the Purchasing Department on utilizing a procurement off of the Nevada State Department of Transportation procurement to purchase what are the Ram ProMaster electric vans. They're similar to the Ram ProMaster gasoline power vans that we have utilizing on the ETA Access program. So we would do the same with the electric vans on ETA Access and ETA Underlay. We are also working with the county attorney's office on the ability to be able to utilize that procurement since the Nevada Department of Transportation does not necessarily do interlocal agreements with other governmental agencies. They just let governmental agencies use those procurements. So as long as we're able to get over that issue, then we'll be bringing before the El Paso Commissioners Court an action to do a cooperative procurement with RO Bus Sales as a vendor to the Nevada State procurement to purchase those electric vans utilizing the TxDOT grant funds that we have received. So we are working in concert with TxDOT and El Paso County Purchasing on this effort. We will just request that if the board supports this action, to authorize staff to take this action to the Commissioners Court for the next steps. And happy to answer any questions about this matter if there are any.
Mr. Ando, just to refresh my memory, last time we discussed this issue with the electric bus pilot project, we did agree as a board to go with the vans instead of the buses.
We did, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Similar vans, since we already have that style in operation today, and based on the range of those vehicles, we felt that it will be better suited for on-delay services and access paratransit services versus Paseo fixed route
Right.
services.
Okay, perfect. Then I agree with that recommendation. Mr. Ramkus?
John, does this alleviate, so it's still going to be changing the vehicle types? Is that going to alleviate the issues that the state grant funding project was imposing on the program?
Yeah, so working with TxDOT, they did allow us to not use it on the fixed route program.
Okay.
So they do support us use it on the paratransit program.
Okay.
They will still charge at the Sun Metro West Side Transit Center, but we would strive to keep those paratransit vehicles primarily in the west side area of our service area, or for premium trips into the city of El Paso.
That was a big win to get them disentangled from the fixed route, which was effectively going to render it completely ineffective from a transit and financial perspective, right?
That is correct.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Rubio?
What's the range on those?
90 to 120 miles.
And then other challenges as far as charging those?
We'll have, I believe, 4 level 2 chargers and 4 level 2 chargers and 1 level 3 charger. The level 2 chargers, overnight charging, will be full. Level 3 charger, allows you to charge 20 to 30 minutes, and then you can put the van back into service.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so there's no action on this item.
Yeah, we would like, direction from this board to authorize us to forward a recommendation to the Commissioners Court on our request to utilize the Nevada Department of Transportation procurement and to purchase vans and to cancel the purchase order with ABC companies.
I will make a motion to accept that recommendation.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Beller, a second from Mr. Condi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We are on to 6K, which is where we'll receive a report from the Executive Director regarding El Paso Transportation Authority staff activities.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, just give a quick high-level update. We have been working with Sun Metro on the Route 84 reconciliation. We have come to an agreement on paying for the fiscal year 24 costs for Route 84 fixed route, as well as the fiscal year 25 costs for fixed route once we receive that invoice. We have formally disputed fiscal year 23 fixed route cost, as well as all of the paratransit costs, just based on the notion of the interlocal agreement being very vague on the paratransit billing, and then questioning why are we paying for fiscal year 23 when we've never paid for fiscal years 14 all the way to 22 before, and that the fiscal year 23 invoice was provided after the city's fiscal year ended a year later. So we are working with El Paso County Attorney's Office on this effort, and we're just awaiting correspondence from Sun Metro on those items in relation to protest. We will be bringing before this reconciliation before the El Paso County Commissioners Court for consideration. We did talk to TxDOT about funding the fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 costs. They did not have any funding available, so we would be asking the Commissioners Court to consider utilizing the contingency grant match funding that's in the transit budget to cover this cost, since we're using EPATS's local matches to cover the county's grants. Absent, if for whatever reason the Commissioners Court did not support that action, then we will be faced with having to make service reductions to the ETA system in order to afford this cost, which will be about $220,000 for fiscal year '24, and we're projecting about $85,000 to $90,000 for fiscal year '25. I'll be participating in the RTAP board meeting and conference next week in Austin, but I will be back for the board meeting that we'll have on the 10th that the board did ask for. We did talk about the bylaws changes today. We continue to do work on the passenger amenities project and bus stop identification project, working with the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. We've selected a vendor for the paratransit software procurement, so we're just finalizing pricing, and we'll be bringing forward this action before this board at a future meeting. I've started discussions with Human Resources on filling the 4 vacant positions, utilizing grant funds through the county, and we'll be bringing before a request for the Commissioners Court to authorize the staffing plan that was adopted by this board back in July. We are finalizing interlocal agreements with all of our member agencies. We just have interlocal agreements we're waiting for from the town of Anthony, the town of Clint, and Horizon City. Once we get those 3, then we'll have interlocal agreements with all member agencies. We are in negotiations with Sun Metro on full membership and an interlocal agreement, and hopefully we'll be bringing that before this board early next year for consideration. You heard from Mr. Gonzalez about the 5339 award. We are finalizing a transit development plan, which will come before this board next month for consideration, and then that'll be submitted to Sun Metro as part of the service expansion policy. TxDOT does have a statewide multimodal transit plan. If you'd like to have some fun reading or you want to come read with me, I gave you a link to that transit plan so you can learn about what TxDOT would like to do about public transit in the state. Other staff activities are shown in this report, and as well as the ridership report for the month of October. And then I'll be emailing the board jurisdictional ridership for ETA access, van pool, and underlay after this board meeting. Happy to answer any questions about my report if there are any.
Mr. Ando, I know you emailed me. I think you might have included the entire board, but you sent us a really good article about the federal government's consideration of cutting transit funding.
Yes, I
Federal
sent that
transit
to you. I
funding.
haven't sent it to the board
Okay,
yet. But
would you mind sending it to the board? And my question is, if there are opportunities for us to engage in advocacy around federal transit funding, maybe trying to understand how that would impact ETA specifically, that would really help us. I mean, and I know at the county level, we're working on federal legislative agendas and priorities, and I think that this rises to the level of importance and urgency that we should all be aware of in our municipalities.
I would agree, and I'll be happy to share that article. Right now, the Trump administration is proposing a significant cut to the mass transit account and redirect those funds to highways and roads. So that will create a catastrophe to public transit across the country, especially since the bipartisan infrastructure law basically doubled the amount of transit funding over the course of its lifespan, which expires on September 30 of 26. The American Public Transportation Association, which I'm active on, Community Transportation Association of America, are 2 entities that are actively lobbying other members of Congress to stop this proposal and to protect public transit funding. I can, perhaps at the January meeting, see if I could bring a representative from one of those entities to talk and educate the board about how we can also help with that effort. Because if there were cuts to federal funding, it will not only affect Sun Metro, it will affect us, TxDOT, and we would have to make significant changes to our transit program. So we definitely don't want to see any changes to the federal funding formulas.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. No action on 6K. 6L is to receive a report of TransDev's operations for the months of October and November 2025, and this will be presented by TransDev.
Sorry. Good afternoon, members of the board. I have two reports, one for the month of October. We've had 0 preventable accidents, 0 non-preventable. For the fixed route on-time performance, we were at 92.30. For the on-time performance for paratransit, we were at 94.5. Our rides per hours for the paratransit were at 0.92. For annual trips, which we started on October, we were at 24. For our fixed route ridership, we were at 10,543. For the paratransit ridership, we were at 634. Paratransit trips, we were at 612. We also have 148 clients in our service area for the paratransit. Outside the service area, we have 15, a total of 163 clients. For our maintenance, we've had 1 road call. We've had 30 preventative maintenance, and all of those completed at 100%. For update on the human resources, we've had 28 fixed route drivers, 7 for paratransit. We have 2 fixed route driver positions open, 2 for the paratransit as well. And we're expected to start a training class on December the 8th. In the additional updates, we started the analyst service. It was a slow start. It's picking up right now, but our drivers, they're making sure that the communities know that we have this service available to them. We have flyers in the van. Every driver has been passing out flyers in the near San Elizario and Clint, as well as the Mission Valley transfer station. We also participated in the Village of Vinton trunk or treat. We decorated one of our vans, and we handed out candy to local children and adults as well. And at that event, we also provided information to people that wanted to know more about our service, and we've received 3 calls so far from that event. And that was it for the month of October. For November, we've had also 0 preventable accidents, 0 non-preventable, 90.20 on-time performance for the fixed route, 94.5 on the paratransit on-time performance. Our rides per hour for the paratransit, we were at 0.96, and annually was picking up, so we had 46 trips. For our fixed route ridership, we were at 9,536. Paratransit ridership, 617, and the paratransit trips, 586. For the clients in our service area, we stayed the same as October, 148 and 15 outside, a total of 163. This month, we had 2 road calls and 32 preventative maintenance completed at 100%. For the staffing, we still have 28 fixed route drivers, 7 paratransit drivers, and still 2 positions open for the fixed route and 2 for the paratransit. For the month of November, we participated in the San Elizario annual events, annual Veterans Day Parade, and the ceremony. We decorated a van, and one of our drivers was out there. We drove around the community of San Eli, and then we also had flyers. We passed them out, and we do look forward to attending to it next year. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending those events, too. I know they're really popular.
Thank you for having us.
And I apologize, I neglected to introduce Jennifer Garcia with TransDev. Thank you. Okay, our last agenda item, 6M, review long-range calendar of agenda items for El Paso Transportation Authority and El Paso Commissioners Court, and this will be presented by Mr. Ando.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the board, my report's in the packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you again for sharing your long-range plans. It's very helpful. Any questions? All right. Thank you, John.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second, I'll second the motion.
Okay, second from Commissioner Stout, thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you,
Opposed?
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
4:22.